The most exciting part of having this movie come out has certainly been the conversations that it starts. And after the film, everyone comes up to me with a story to tell. It could be their story, it could be their mom's story, their best friend's story, but the internet is a crazy, wild place, and everyone's got some great story to tell, and I've been hearing a lot of them.
Do you ever want to just say, okay, keep it to yourself?
No, actually, it's the opposite. And sometimes I get so excited by the story, and I just wish we could pursue it and maybe find out more and make a short film about it or something.
A sequel?
Or yeah, or compile stories for a sequel.
Have you thought of that?
We talk about it, yeah. We certainly consider the idea that there are enough stories happening on a daily basis that are as interesting as mine. The unique thing about our film, though, is that before we knew it was a crazy story about online romance and deception, it was just a love story. And most people don't usually film just sort of simple internet correspondence, but because they did, and then it took a turn, we were able to tell the whole story, and that's what makes it so unique.
Well, and that's my thought too. As I watched the movie, I thought, in the beginning, before you knew all that, why are they even shooting this? And then as I read some in here, it seems like they'll shoot just about everything, or you shoot a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we are sort of on-the-go filmmakers. Sometimes we have our professional camera with us, but more often we just have little Canon consumer HD cameras. And if something's happening and it's sort of remotely interesting, you know, film it for a minute. It may just be stored on a hard drive forever. It might be used in our 50th birthday montages that we make for one another. Or next week, something interesting could happen again, and it could relate to that, and then all of a sudden you've got two interesting things, and you string them together, and maybe it's a short film, and who knows?
In the car scene, you're driving there, and maybe I've gotten the word wrong. Does someone call you, do you feel like a fool? Is that what they said? Or do you feel like you were tricked or something? And you were immediately defensive, and you said, no, I just chose not to pursue something about looking into it. Looking back on it now, do you feel like you were tricked?
Yeah, I mean, it's, sometimes every time I watch the film now, I'm that much more shocked at how far I was able to let myself get drawn in, and how easily it happened, and how much I wanted this fantasy, or this online fantasy, to turn out to be a real thing. And I had every reason to believe that it would, but it's shocking now to think how easily I got roped in. But I laugh about it, and I thank the, you know, brother and family and friend sort of gods that the people that were on that trip with me were them, and that they never sort of made me feel embarrassed or you know, put me out on the line too far without being there with me.
Except maybe when you were under the covers reading the text.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely moments where I was genuinely embarrassed or genuinely nervous or afraid, but they were always there, and we always laughed together. No one's ever laughing at; it's always with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What do you? I mean, I heard so much of what people. Oh my gosh, that happened to me, or oh, something like that started to happen. I'm so glad now that I just, you know, just stopped the communication or whatever. Do you hope people really come out of this educated?
Yeah, I think it's more about just being aware that what you're doing online doesn't necessarily have... Oh, sorry again.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people to continue having relationships, online or in person, but be aware that you can't just trust people. You know, you have to shield yourself a little bit. Don't put too much of yourself out there, because you don't know how they're going to use it, or you know, even if you can trust someone all the way until you really know them face to face. But I don't discourage people from having interactions, because for better or worse, this led to an incredible story and a wonderful film, and now a new life experience that I'm grateful for, and of, you know, all of this experience now, which has been terrific. So keep putting yourself out there, take risks, but just be cautious and keep in mind that you don't always know what you're getting into.
Would you ever start a relationship or let it go this far online without meeting someone again?
I don't think that would be possible for me at this point. I'm still open to meeting people online and hearing. I mean, you know, people have been reaching out to me, strangers who have seen the film or seen the trailer or heard about it, and I love that. But I can't imagine myself getting too emotionally involved now with someone who I hadn't sat down with across from and really met face to face.
And Leslie asked me, did you ever contemplate in the process Skyping?
Yeah, there was an attempt on my part to introduce video chatting, but as you'll discover in the film, or after the film, there were any number of reasons why that did not work out. So it didn't really matter even for me at the time, because I had phone calls, I had emails, I had photographs, and text messages, so, you know, all of that was there. The video piece, yes, in retrospect, would have been great, but also would have made the story and the movie a little difficult.
Well, let me throw this out, and you can just talk to Betty. But the thing that we thought was interesting is, as you watch it, it's like you learn a lot about people in general, and it's like at first you're like, oh my gosh, she's crazy, which I'm sure you all had that same reaction, but then you actually start to feel for her, and it's very emotional. And I mean, I know as us just watching, but then you all are there in the situation. I mean, it just, your mind goes through so many different emotions of it's like crazy, and then goes to something else where you're feeling for her and all she's dealing with.
Yeah.
Just talk to
what do you think about that message that sends? Do you think, you know, were you shocked that, you know, people are having that reaction, that it's, you know?
Well, y'all even had the scene in the movie where y'all talked about the fact that you kind of were like, oh my gosh, we feel sorry for this woman. And I'm glad you included that, because I think a lot of the audience was starting to go, oh, I hope they don't exploit this woman. She has enough trouble in her life.
Yeah, I think the overall objective of the film was to make it as true to the experience as possible. So yeah, we got there and we were sort of shocked and bewildered and thought, wow, we have no idea what's going on. But then very quickly, a friendship evolved, and compassion for this family and what they were dealing with and who they were, that was there. So it had to be included in the film, because that's how we felt, and that's how it was for us. So,
I mean, but really, the evolution of emotion was incredible for you then. From thinking you'd walk us through it. I mean, you went thinking you were in love, to being angry, to feeling compassion, to, I mean, oh my gosh, you just ran the gamut.
Yeah, there are a lot of feelings that were going on in my head while we were there. It wasn't really until after the experience and when the camera stopped and I was finally home and back to my reality that I went through all of those and had time to sort of process exactly what had happened and deal with the feelings and the sadness and the anger and understand that. And it took some time. But while we were there, it was just sort of this exciting discovery, and not only discovery about myself, but also about this family and being with my brother and Henry and going on this journey.
We look at the movie really through your eyes and what you're experiencing, but it also opens your eyes to that Facebook, for people who want to escape reality, now have a much more easy means to do that, and the lengths they're willing to go to have this other life. I mean, were you surprised by that? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I was, you know, we considered a lot of scenarios going up to meet this family in Michigan as to what we would find, and never came close to considering the one that ended up to be true. People use the internet for lots of things. We all connect. We all use it to find out information not only about things that we're interested in, but also about other people that we know. And what I find so interesting is that social networking sites in particular are all about, an audience, and having people pay attention to you, and also paying attention to other people. But sort of sadly, because of the nature of using a computer, you have to sort of be by yourself, alone, in order to connect with all these other people. And I think that's sort of one of the big problems with the internet, is that it's a global community, but you have to be alone to be a part of it. And it's sort of very contradictory. And so I'd like to say that I'm starting some kind of great new business where we have these huge gymnasiums of internet users, and and there's like 30-minute break times where everyone has to get up and play basketball or something. But sadly, that's not true.